Okay, this video is going to take care of or deal with cast operators in Java. You need to have a set of notes in front of you. If you don't have those notes, in the assignment, the Chapter 2.9 assignment, will be a link that where you can get those notes and print them off. Otherwise, just do notes on your own paper. But you do need to take notes on this. We need to have this down on paper. So a cast operator is something that is going to be useful to use at certain times. So first of all, a cast operator can be used to convert an int to a floating point. Now remember, a floating point just means a decimal. So a double or a float. Float is the other data type. It's a decimal data type. But we're going to just use doubles. So it converts an int to a double in a sense. So you can change a 6 to a 6.0 by using the int cast operator. A floating point, it can also convert a floating point or a double or a float to an int. So it can convert a 7.45 to a 7. And sometimes this is going to be something that will be helpful. The cast operators are int in parentheses and double in parentheses. That's how they are listed. And so we're going to take a look at both of those. And so the int cast operator is what converts a floating point number or a decimal into an int, or it converts a double into an int. And so if you look at the first situation here, in here, an int cast operator will act on this decimal and convert it to a 5. All right, and so just to show you that this happens, we're going to go to JGrasp. In JGrasp here, you'll see that we have int result is assigned 5.6. Now, if you're looking at this, you'll see it's trying to store a double in an int memory location, which should cause an error. And so let's go ahead and check that out. And so as you can see, it does produce an error. So compatible data types, incompatible data types. All right, so let's take and help that out by what we're going to do in this line. We're going to take that 5.6 and we're going to apply the cast operator, and it's going to cast this magic spell on 5.6, turn it into a 5, and a 5 should be stored, be able to be stored in an int data type or memory location. So there's no error, and now we print, and so it does print a 5 for results. So just so you see that it really does work. So now we go back to our notes, and we have a problem like this. So if we apply the int spell on 5.6, it becomes a 5, and then it's 5 times 4, which produces a 20. And you can see what a difference this makes, because if you didn't do that, then it would be 5.6 times 4, which would just be 22.4. But by making the 5.6 an int, you've made it smaller because we've gotten rid of the decimal. So let's take a look at C. Actually, the best thing would be for you to pause the video and then to try to do C and D by yourself, and then come back and check. So if we take the int, now what are we going to apply the int to? Well, is it going to be to 5.6 or the result or the product of 5.6 times 4? And because of the parentheses, we're going to do what's inside of that first. So we're going to keep the int here because it's not being used yet, but inside the parentheses, 5.6 times 4 is 22.4. So now the int cast operator gets applied. So now it casts a spell on the 22.4, which changes it, makes it to be 22. So again, you see the situation where parentheses, the use of parentheses makes a difference. It affects what the cast operator acts on. And in D, we'll see that we have an int acts on the 5.6. It becomes a 5. Now, this is times 4.0 and 4.0, and which is a double. So since you have a double in the problem, then the answer or the result must be a double. So 5.4.0 is not 20, it's 20.0. All right, so that's how that works. Let's move on to the next one. A double cast operator converts an int to a floating point, or to a double or a float. Here we go. So double casts a spell on this int and says you are now a double, and so it adds a 0.0. Now you remember, of course, that this happens automatically when you're trying to store an int in a double. So that's why you don't have to do this normally on an int. You use it when you're doing a calculation, but as far as storing 7 will be stored in a double automatically as 7.0. And then just to show you how it works in JGrasp, let's do this. So in JGrasp, what happens is, let's say we have int result is 7, and of course that's going to produce a 7, as you can see down here. And then let's say that we, instead of just a 7, now we're going to, whoops, come on thing. We're going to have apply the double cast operator on the 7. And so what should happen, it should change the int to a double. And of course, as you see then, it does. And so what's happening is that is a 7.0, but we're trying to store the 7.0 in an int. That's not going to work, right? So that is just not going to work because you can't do that. So if we were to make this a double, then of course that's how we can store the 7 in there. And of course it's a 7.0 because it's a double. Then if we look at this, you can see that if we are going to run it with 8 divided by 5, of course 8 divided by 5 is an int, has to be an int, which is 1, and it's being stored in here as a double. So it's 1.0, that's why we get a 1.0. Now if we take that and add the double, have the double act on the 8, you'll see that this will make the 8 an 8.0. And so now, since a double is one of the operands, then it should do the calculation in the calculator. So it'll be 8 divided by 5. You're going to end up with a decimal. And then because we are, because it has to be a double, we keep the decimal. And so here we go. We'll go like this, run it. And so 8 divided by 5 in the calculator is 1.6. And since this double changed the int to a double, now it has to stay, or the result has to be a decimal. And so if we go back then to here, let's see. Okay, let's go down to the, well, let's go to B. I think we haven't done B yet. 7 divided by 4, we said, is and it has to be an int, so it's just going to be 1. 7 divided by 4 is 1. But now if we take that 7 divided by 4, take the double, and it's going to make this a 7.0, and then divide it by 4. And then you do 7.4 in the calculator, and you're going to get 1.75 if you were to actually do that in the calculator. Okay, then in D, what's going to happen here is we're not going to do the double on the 7. We're going to do it on the quotient, what the result of this is. Now 7 divided by 4 is this. It's just 1 because they're both ints. So we're going to double, we're going to do a double cast operator on an int, the int of 1. So therefore the result's going to be 1.0. All right, let's take a look at an example this is very important on. So here's, let's say we want to calculate our GPA. Now one of the ways to do a GPA, not worrying about weight and all that kind of stuff, is let's say you have 7 classes, and your GPA points, let's say an A gets 4 points, a B gets 3 points, etc. If you add all those points up, let's say you have 24. And so, of course, to calculate your GPA, you would divide those. So therefore, we have the GPA points divided by the number of classes. So 24, which is an int, divided by number of classes, which is an int. So if we then were to do the calculator, we get a 3, because 24 divided by 7, you do it in the calculator and then you drop the decimal, so it's a 3. So that means a 3. So we're going to take and store, the compiler is going to store 3 into a double. So when it's stored in in GPA, it's going to be stored as a 3.0. Now, is that a problem? I mean, is this a 3.0 GPA? Well, let's go on to the next problem. This is another way we could do it. Okay, so we have GPA is points is 24. Num of classes is 7. And so the first thing that's going to happen is the double acts on the GPA points to cast its spell on that one. And so this actually becomes 24.0 divided by 7. And then 24.0 divided by 7 is 3.43. And then that's going to get stored in the GPA memory location. Now that is good. It makes sense, a 3.43 GPA. Now let's see where it could be bad, because let's say if you decide, well, I'm going to put parentheses around the quotient down here. So you have 24 divided by 7, which is 3. And then you double, you do the cast operator double on the 3. Now it becomes a 3.0. And then you store the 3.0 in GPA. So again, that's not good. And this is not good. And so that's why the placement of your cast operator is very important. And that's how you can make this work. All right, that's it for this video.